Now, former Ghana Football Association President Kwesi Nyantakyi, who was handed a lifetime ban by football's world governing body FIFA on Tuesday, says he is appealing the ruling. Mr. Nyantakyi's ban is in connection with dealings captured in secret recordings by investigative journalist Anas Arimiao Anas in the famous Number 12 documentary. The former FA boss, in addition to the lifetime ban, is also to stay away from all football-related activities and pay a fine of nearly $500,000. But Mr. Nyantakyi, in a press release copied to myjoyonline.com, said he will seek redress at the Court of Arbitration of Sports. And the statement reads, "I wish to express my shock and deep sadness after receiving the decision from the FIFA Ethics Adjudicatory Committee on Tuesday. My legal advisors are under instructions to urgently appeal the decision as I think it was unfair, harsh, and unwarranted. I will use all the legal channels available to seek redress and establish the facts I presented to the committee. Even though I have already resigned from all my football positions, it is important to establish that I establish the facts with the sole aim of clearing my name. At this moment, I am unable to provide any further details as my lawyers are reviewing the facts for appeal at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to the people of Ghana, Africa, and indeed across the globe for the overwhelming support and outpouring of sympathy." The statement from Mr. Nyantakyi comes as concerns grow about government's delay in prosecuting the former football administrator when FIFA has concluded its work. The National Democratic Congress has called on the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, to independently investigate the activities of Ghanaian football officials in the Number 12 video. In a statement signed by the national organizer, Kofi Adams, the party said the ban of the former GFA boss, Kofi Nyantakyi, by FIFA after months of rigorous investigations raises serious questions about the involvement of President Akufo-Addo in the bribery scandal. The NDC explained that if FIFA acted based on the Anas Number 12 video and had investigations done, then the same can be done in Ghana. But legal practitioner Samson Ladi Ayenini explains FIFA's verdict has absolutely no influence on Ghana's prosecution of the case, adding he's not sure the evidence available can effectively support criminal prosecution of the former FA boss. He spoke on Joy FM Super Morning Show.
In our statutes, I cannot see the crime in that. Conflict of interest, who is he dealing with? The country where he's dealing with and FIFA's laws clearly prohibit what he has done. Yeah. And so FIFA has dealt with him according to their rules. Their rules are rules of ethics. So it is much a question of ethical conduct. It is much a question of impropriety. Questions of morality, ethical conduct may not necessarily be criminal. So what he has done, FIFA's processes are not criminal processes. FIFA's processes are what you may call what is based on the standard of balance of probabilities. They are not processes that require to prove something beyond reasonable doubt. And therefore, it is possible for what to have happened to happen. You could be punished. And some of the offenses are not criminal offenses. He was getting into a business transaction with him. The person must show that in that process, he may have defrauded him. How much did he defraud him of? That can be a clear example where you have defrauded somebody. Then he could be prosecuted on that leg. You must prove his guilt beyond reasonable doubt. If you don't discharge that burden, the person cannot be, as it were, found guilty. So I guess we should be asking now what Anas may have supplied. Those who may have received it, we understand Iyoko received some. The special prosecutor may have also received some of that. What further investigations may have revealed? We should be asking them the questions. They should show us whether or not their investigations, there was need for further investigations, and what the further investigations have concluded on. Otherwise, what you just saw on that footage and the pronouncements of the man on that footage, I can say that 1,000 times, are not matters that will constitute a criminal prosecution.
Not even.
A lawyer for KNUST, Kisi Jabeng, who was called up on the show, however, disagreed. Listen.
With all the facets that are available to the various state institutions, they should come out with the determination whether indeed the evidence is solid enough for them to go on or otherwise.
So, lawyer, what did you think was the way to go? You mentioned that in your determination and in the determination of your client, you thought this has been committed, this has. What has been committed?
Several things. There's bribery, there's corruption. I'll give you two. The others I'll hold for my purposes.
In our laws, isn't bribery and corruption limited to public officials by our laws?
Depends on how you are looking at it. It depends on how you are looking at it.
How should we look at it?
The one who is engineering it and the one on whose behalf it is being engineered. Depends on how you look at it. And the aim and final object of the person who was engineering it. If you look at it critically, everything will fall into its right chips.
What's of the question of jurisdiction, lawyer? The fact that this was committed in another country. What was recorded anyway? It is.
You have concluded that it was committed in another country because the video was recorded in Dubai. But mind you, the company was set up in Ghana in pursuance of the meeting in Dubai. 7 days after, or 10 days after the meeting, the company was set up here. And then accounts were set up here in anticipation of receiving monies here in Ghana, all in pursuance of this enterprise. So it is for the state institutions to go through what was given to them and come to a conclusion or otherwise. As for beyond reasonable doubt, say, what do you need more than a person who is seen on tape doing this or that? You want God himself to come down to tell you that this is what he did. Unless you're saying that the video evidence was dreamed of, it wasn't there, it was contrived, it was manufactured. Otherwise, you'll be calling on God himself to come and testify.
Well, Deputy Attorney General Joseph Memka Dindiok has meanwhile told JoyNews the AG's department has not reneged on its duties, as is being suggested by a section of the public. It says government will soon clarify the status of the case against the former FA boss, Kwesi Nyantakyi.
Based on available facts and evidence that come to our attention and our custody. And two, it is upon an assessment and critical analysis of such pieces of evidence and documentation before us that we can proffer charges upon careful scrutiny. And remember that for every offense that you intend to charge any person, it must be accompanied by certain ingredients available for the proof of that crime. These are primary and fundamental. And unless somebody outside there can tell all of us as Ghanaians that indeed all these documentation and pieces of evidence have been made available to the Office of the Attorney General and that we are not proceeding with it to court, I will say that whatever is being said now remains in the realms of speculation and without basis. Whatever docket comes to us, we look at it as a body and as a state institution, and when we come to certain conclusions, we proceed to court. So I can tell you without any equivocation and without a shred of doubt that nobody is shielding any person. And as you have rightly pointed out, certain fundamental questions to the lawyer and etc., I can tell you that at the appropriate time, we as an office will issue an official position on this particular matter. In matters of this nature, you cannot compare a criminal prosecution that will take place in Ghana to whatever civil inquisition that FIFA might have made into Nyantakyi's conduct. So the two are different. I speak with you, it is not the case that we have refused to prosecute. What is the case is that evidence is being gathered by the state agencies, and when they put together all that and we review the dockets and come to one conclusion that indeed crime has been committed, we shall proceed to court.
Have the investigators submitted the result of the investigation to the AG's department yet?
Preliminarily, they hadn't. But as I can tell you that because of the vested public interest and etc., I will personally consult with my boss and we get the appropriate information that is available here. Whatever it is that is there, we will let Ghanaians know that this is what we are doing as a state entity or body responsible for prosecutions in respect of the matter. So we shall be feeding the public with more information within the shortest possible time.
Let's stay on this a while longer because the man whose undercover investigation led to the life ban of former Ghana Football Association president says he will not gloat over the downfall of Kwesi Nyantakyi, and asks who is a keynote speaker at the ongoing Africa Investigative Journalism Conference at the a university in Johannesburg, South Africa, says he was hearing the ban for the first time from the audience and would not go into details. He told his audience, made up of investigative journalists drawn from across Africa and other parts of the world, he fought a system and not a personality.
I haven't seen the story yet, and so at this stage, I would just say no comment. A lot of these issues are in court, and strategically so. I am not one person who loves to rejoice about somebody's misfortune. I think that I fought a system and not a personality. And I'm happy that the system is down, and I'm happy that changes are being brought. For me, those are very, very important issues.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Araba Kumsin. We're taking a short break, but still to come, Asante Hene Otumfuo II assures normalcy will soon be restored to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology as he pays his first visit to the campus since the shutdown.
You hear complaints on the sides of the students. They think that they are not being listened to. Probably as Vice Chancellors, we need to explore innovative ways of engaging students.
And Inqanta Senior High School to possibly reopen on Monday after students riots following seizure of their mobile phones.
School will resume as early as time permit, but there are certain things you have to put in place. First, restore water and light to the school. Also get the marker boards fixed.
Details after this break. You're welcome back. Now, Asante Hene Otumfuo II has assured normalcy will soon be restored to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, which was shut down following a students' riot last week. Chief of Staff at the Menchia Palace, Kofi Bedu, who spoke for him, says a committee will be set up to address all outstanding issues. The Asante Hene was on campus to assess the extent of damage caused by the rioting students. Love FM's Kwesi Deborah reports.
The main administration block, halls of residence, security office, the maintenance department and office of Dean of Students are scenes of destruction. Otumfuo also saw the damaged electronic gate at the Bomsi gate of the university. Mr. Kofi Bedu says the Chancellor, who is unhappy about the turn of events, will facilitate processes to return the KNUST to its glorious days.
The resolution of the crisis here. So I thought that because we saw all of them here, we needed to know the reasons why they accompanied me here. They felt that the crisis here is their crisis too. It's important for the educational system of this country to ensure that disturbances of this sort are resolved amicably.
Earlier, Otumfuo met with Vice Chancellors of public universities. Vice Chancellor of University of Health and Allied Sciences, Professor John Japon, briefed the media after the discussion.
Oh, well, Vice Chancellors Ghana, we think that there are lessons for everybody. There are lessons for everybody. You hear complaints on the sides of the students. They think that they are not being listened to. Probably as Vice Chancellors, we need to explore innovative ways of engaging students. But we do not entertain violence under any circumstances. I mean, if you feel aggrieved, we have laid down processes and procedures for addressing our grievances. So under no circumstances should anybody take the law into their own hands. And then also probably on the part of government, the speed with which the university was closed down to avert further damage to property and life I found it very good. It was prompt action. Otherwise, nobody could tell what was going to happen. But beyond that, then we need to allow the processes to work. So that is what I think is clear for all parties to learn from this experience.
Meanwhile, University Teachers Association of Ghana, KNUST chapter, says it will suspend its strike when the council is reconstituted on Friday. Reporter for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
Let's still stay on education because the Inqanta Municipal Director of Education, Stephen Kwame, is promising the Inqanta Senior High School would be reopened possibly on Monday after a definite closure following Monday's night's riot by students. He added that efforts are underway to restore power and water to the campus and restore other logistics within the shortest possible time for academic work to resume. Correspondent Fred Kwame Asari filed this report.
Some students of the Inqanta Senior High School went on rampage in protest against their phones seized by some teachers during a routine roll call Monday night. 3 vehicles belonging to the school had their windscreens destroyed, while a police pickup also had its windscreen and rear screens damaged. Some school properties, including bungalows of the 2 teachers who seized the phones, were vandalized. 16 motorcycles were also reportedly damaged in the course of the riot. The Inqanta Municipal Police Commander William Ayensu explains some 30 students have been picked up to help in the investigations. The school was subsequently shut down on Tuesday after a crunch meeting of the Municipal Security Council headed by the Municipal Chief Executive, John Thashun. Students had to vacate the campus as there were no supply of water and electricity. However, after a meeting with the Parent-Teacher Association, there was a consensus for the school to be reopened after utilities connection have been restored. The Municipal Education Director, Stephen Kwame, indicated items destroyed would be valued and shared among boarding students to pay.
And decided that school will resume as early as time permit, but there are certain things you have to put in place. First, restore water and light to the school. Also get the marker boards fixed. Then we can now bring them back to school. Hopefully, early next week, schools will resume. Government is spending so much on education in the country, so it will be very unfair on our part to say government should pay or get these things back. So parents of these children will have to pay at the end of it all.
Fred Kwame Asari's report for JoyNews.
Well, I'm joined on the line now by Stephen Kwame Chiatofe. He is the Municipal Director of Education for Inqanta South. Good evening and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
So first of all, tell us what went into the decision to reopen the school on Monday.
Actually, we thought of all that the government is doing to promote education. And if you watch our part of our area, we are deprived. And if, again, we should delay our people, it means we are not doing them any good. The results of this particular school for the past 3 years have not been the best. So keeping them will just worsen the situation. This is why we've decided to actually hurry up for them to come back to school as early as possible.
Okay, I need you to shed some light on what actually sparked the violence on Monday. Is it the case that the students flouted school regulations, that they're not supposed to be handling telephones or mobile phones in the school or during school hours?
No, it's not just that. In fact, the news gotten was that some of the boarders were not sleeping in the hostels or the dormitory. So teachers went around to do roll call. Unfortunately, after the roll call in House 4, they informed others in other houses And these people were not prepared to have the roll call conducted in their houses. Because the first dormitory they went to, they realized that there was an illegal connection, and 2 students were charging their mobile phones. The other one was asleep with the mobile phone on the chest. So these 3 mobile phones were collected from them. So they informed the others what actually took place in that particular hall. Before those who went there knew it, they started making noise, singing war songs, and they threatened the life of some of the teachers. So it is not because of they didn't go there because of mobile phones. They went there to check those who were not sleeping or those who have run away to town borders.
Right, and clarify this issue for me. Is it a GES policy for students not to handle mobile phones during school hours or whilst in school?
They are not to handle mobile phones during school hours. Now, in their case in particular, on the 10th of this month, the Deputy Regional Minister, the Municipal Chief Executive, with the directorate, the GES directorate in Inqanta South, went there because of the poor performance. We conducted SPAM, School Performance Appraisal meeting. And one of the decisions arrived at is that students should not use mobile phone. You know, they should keep, if you have one on you, give it to a master. If there's need for you to make any call to your parents, then you can go to your master and then collect this mobile phone, make the call. After that, you keep it there. But don't bring it to the dormitory. Of late, you see a lot of pornographic things going around. When masters are teaching, you see students looking at pornographic things or showing it to their colleagues. So it's something we are not encouraging. And if you look at the illegal connections, connecting mobile phones to something that's the ceiling fan, it's very dangerous. They can set the whole block on fire. They can set the whole block on fire. And it will mean the government to reconstruct a school block or something else. So the best decision you arrive at is that they should not use mobile phones during in the dormitory or during classes hours.
Okay. Now, Municipal Director, very quickly and finally, my final question to you is, we do know that you're considering spreading the cost for the children or the students to pay. But beyond that, is there any other punitive measures you're going to mete out to the students to, deter them from further engaging in these acts of vandalism and rioting?
For now, we are yet to actually tell who the perpetrators are. So it will be very wrong if you just punish a whole school besides paying for this thing. So if we get those involved, in fact, the security is working on this. If we get those involved, yes, we'll punish those who actually spark this so that next time nobody will dream of doing it.
All right. Many thanks. Stephen Kwame Chiatofe is the Municipal Director of Education in Inqanta South. You heard me speaking with him just a while ago. Many thanks for your time, sir. You're still watching JoyNews Prime with me, Arba Kumson. You're welcome back. Now, Ghanaian entrepreneur Richard Jakpa has blamed former Finance Minister Seth Tepe for the inadequate ambulances in the health system. According to him, Mr. Tepe refused to sign documents that would have seen the delivery of about 200 ambulances to improve access to healthcare delivery in the country. According to him, the former minister threw out documents which would mandate a private bank to release the finances to facilitate the project. In 2012, Mr. Jakpa was contracted to produce 200 ambulances, but only 30 were supplied, but were described as unfit for purpose. But speaking on the Super Morning Show Wednesday, Mr. Jakpa alleged former Finance Minister Seth Tepe is responsible for the delay in delivery.
Procurement requesting for sole sourcing approval because they've secured cabinet and parliamentary approval. Procurement also demanded for all the documents. They sent all to them, the contracts and then the financial package. And mind you, the contract that was approved by Cabinet, Parliament, and public procurement was drafted by government. So after going through all these procurement processes and PPA also approving it and giving government a go-ahead, then the Ministry of Health invited us. Big C flew down. They came to sign the contract with government, which was represented by Abang Bagbin as a minister then.
What of the financial side?
Then the financial side was sent to finance, because they have to sign it with Stambik. Because health can't sign that one.
Did they sign it?
Good. So after that time, if you realize we had gone through election, and the former president had won.
Yeah.
Had won the election, right? And Dufo was still the finance minister. So on the 20th of December, the Ministry of Finance wrote to Stambik Bank, informing them that they had secured cabinet, parliamentary, and proper procurement approval.
And this letter is here?
It's here. The letter is here.
Okay, go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
So they wrote to Stambik Bank. And that Stambik Bank, that was 20th December, Stambik Bank should forward to them the final contract so that they should sign. Bring it to them for them to also sign. To be in conformity with what Parliament had approved. So before Setepe was appointed by His Excellency John Mahama, the former president, to take over from Dufo, before Setepe could take over the Ministry of Finance, the signed contract of the financial package from Stambik Bank, as approved by Parliament, was already on his desk waiting for him to come and sign.
When he came back, did he sign it?
As soon as he took over, new king, new law, he took over, he threw it off.
He refused to sign it?
He refused to do what Parliament has approved, what the executive had approved, he threw it off.
Now, a female blogger who published a false report about Kumawood actor Inqanta, also known as Lil Wayne, has been granted bail after spending a night in police custody. Ohima Candice Jane, in a story published on GhanaSplash.com, accused the actor of running over a pedestrian on the Accra and Sewem Highway on Monday. The actor, however, disputed the report, lodged a complaint with the Tesano police. Ifwa Evans Chinnery reports.
Popular radio presenter Beku Santana was on full blast on his show on Monday, calling for the arrest of the blogger after the story went viral. Ohima Candice in the report stated that the Kumawood actor was riding in his customized Chevrolet in front of Accra-based radio station Peace FM when the incident happened. She explains how she came by the story, admitting she didn't do the needed checks.
I visited the Peace FM premises on Monday to visit Kwame Akmo, my former teacher. While I wait at the first floor, the wing came and the receptionist was actually asking him to, the receptionist asked Lewin that somebody had lodged a complaint that he has knocked him down. I overheard just this conversation. I don't know what car was it. I don't know what time it was. I don't know where it happened. But since I'm a blogger, I thought maybe I could make something out of it. I wrote an article.
You didn't speak to this person who was lodging the complaint?
Didn't even know. I don't even know who the person was, and I didn't speak to anybody. I don't know whether it was true or not. But the only thing I heard was Lewin explaining that people throw themselves at him because he's a star to extort or they need money from him.
Tesano Divisional Commander Superintendent Odro Amening said investigations are ongoing.
We were here last Monday when we had a call from Peace FM that there's been a lady blogger there who has just filmed Lewin and then put it on the media. We immediately moved in, and then we met the lady, and we met Lewin also. They were discussing. Apparently, she has videoed him and then put it on the media that he has just knocked someone with his car and he has run away without stopping. So that was it. We brought them, and then we took statement from Lewin and then as a complainant, and then the lady also, we cautioned her. And later she said she was sorry for what she did and it wasn't intention. Lewin is her fan. And I said, granted, if he's your fan, why then do you want to defame him. You know he's a star. And she said, no, it wasn't her intention. That wasn't the intention, that she wanted to destroy Lewin. She said, okay, then let's go ahead. So the law will take its course. Meanwhile, we granted her bail, and the investigation is still ongoing.
Ohima Kande says she's expected to report to the police again on Friday.
You're welcome back. Now, today, Parliament unanimously called for sanctions in the wake of the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi in the Saudi embassy in Turkey earlier this month. The minority and majority sides spent hours condemning the act, but right here at home, they were silent on attacks against journalists. With the latest on JoyNews political reporter Kwesi Parker-Wilson, the parliamentarians' call comes at the back of reports that 11 journalists in the country have been assaulted in the last 10 months. Here is a report chronicling some of these attacks on journalists and media houses.
Incidents of attacks on journalists from January 2017 to October 2018. February 27, 2017, Kotoko Express reporter Gideon Butchie physically attacked by a fan and steward of Ash Gold during a football match. March 6, 2017, soldiers attacked freelance journalist Kendrick Ofei during Ghana's 60th Independence Day celebration at the Independence Square. October 18, 2017, newspaper office attacked by rampaging youth of Kumasi. December 21, 2017, NPP security guards physically assault journalists from TV3, City FM, and Ghana Web. They were brutalized by security guards for covering the protest at the premises of a party headquarters. March 27, 2018, Latif Idris brutalized by police at the police headquarters and left with a fractured skull. 4th May 2018, Adom FM's Ama Sechiwa slapped by NPP firebrand Hajia Fati at party headquarters. July 19, 2018, GH1 cameraman Reynold Datsi beaten to pulp at Ayawaso in the Ashanti region. October 29, 2018, JoyNews' Kwesi Parker-Wilson slapped by John Mahama security detail and left with an infected eye.
So those are just a few of the cases. Well, in the case of JoyNews reporter Parker-Wilson, his assault, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, Ken Ashigbe, wants media houses to boycott functions of the National Democratic Congress until justice is served for him.
About 21 incidents that have happened.
Of assault on journalists.
Of assault on journalists. And you find out that for all of them, not even one have we really seen resolution. I remember on the case of Latif, when the GJA, and I think for that particular one, we need to give GJA credit, called the press conference and told the police that we were not going to report the police till you resolve this thing. A few days afterwards, I know there was an event where the West African Media Foundation was supposed, we went there. Whilst the GGA had called us. I remember when I was managing director of Graphic, one of my staff was assaulted by Asamajan and his brother in Kumasi, and I ordered as publisher that we were not going to cover them. Even the NMC came hard at me, that why would we do that?
Why are you boycotting?
Yes, till we get to the point where we say that never would we allow this to happen, never are we going to tolerate that. So the NDC, the MPP, the police, the military.
You're suggesting that we should boycott John Mahama's campaign?
We need, you see, we need to get to the point where whoever does that, we tell you that all of us, not only just the media house that was attacked, but we say that till you repair this, we are not going to deal with it. How on earth would anybody tell me that in a semi-military organization, one person does this and nobody knows who it is? How many hours after? It is just because they know that for the media beats them. Oh, they will come back again. You know what I mean? We've sold ourselves so cheap. We're forgetting that we are the fourth estate of the realm. We are more powerful than, any sword. But we don't take this seriously enough. And I think it's about time we said no.
Well, in Parliament Wednesday, the MP's silence on the assault of Ghanaian journalists was very loud when they took the opportunity to condemn the killing of Jamal Khashoggi and criticize the Saudi government's infringement on the freedom of expression. Listen.
There are 9 questions that have remained unanswered about the death of this journalist, Mr. Speaker. The first one is, was Khashoggi really considering returning to Saudi Arabia? That is number 1. If this was just a discussion, why did it take 15 men to travel to Istanbul for a meeting? Mr. Speaker, the third question is, why did the Saudi group include a forensic expert and members of the security force?
Demanding that the perpetrators be tried. They be tried in accordance with law and are made to pay the ultimate price. I consider the murder an affront to freedom of expression and an affront to the independence of the media. He was only contributing to the development of the world through his writing, espousing what he believed in, what he saw. And Mr. Speaker, circumstances of his murder, there are various attempts to cover up. We will not accept a cover up, and this parliament should not accept a cover up.
So why are the politicians seemingly turning a blind eye to matters here in Ghana? Joining me in the studio, hopefully with some answers, is Sam George. He is Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram. Most grateful for your time here. So today we heard your colleagues addressing, issues affecting international journalists. Given that journalists here in Ghana, have been assaulted in the last few weeks, it's very strange that you are silent on that. How do you respond to critics who say that, you're turning a blind eye to issues affecting your own people?
Well, let me say a very good evening to our viewers. And let me say that the critics are entitled to hold any view that they consider. However, their view does not represent the facts or the reality. Parliament of Ghana has on several occasions denounced the brutality against not just journalists, but any citizen of the Republic. I mean, be it police officers like ASP Nanka Bruce or members of the media fraternity. For example, when there was an attack on journalist Latif Idrisu of Multimedia, Parliament did speak about it. We spoke about it, we condemned it, and called for an investigation into the matter. So it would be unfair to Parliament to suggest that Parliament is silent when on issues of brutality against journalists. I mean, we are very vociferous on issues involving excessive use of force against any citizen of the Republic.
And has your attention been drawn to the case involving my colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, who was assaulted by former President Mahama's security detail? Of course, we know that the former president has rendered an apology personally to Kwesi Parker-Wilson, but what do you make of it?
Well, let me state for the facts again that it is incorrect to suggest that Kwesi Parker-Wilson was assaulted by members of President Mahama's security detail. That is not the fact of the matter.
These are people who were protecting the president, they say.
No, that again is not proven. Okay, there were quite a number of people there, including people who had joined.
So how would you describe these people? Would you describe them as party supporters?
There were supporters
activists
of the party, there were sympathizers of the party, there was the president, former president himself, there was his security detail in there. And I know for a fact that when the incident happened at Soweto, from Soweto the campaign continued to Wejagbawe. At Wejagbawe, when the president's information or attention was drawn to it, that was about 30 minutes after the incident. He personally interacted with Parker and extended his apologies to him, and actually asked him if he could identify from within his security detail which of his security men had done the assault, if any had. And my information is that Parker at the point said that he could not point out any of them. So that's why I'm saying that it is not fair to the campaign of President Mahama to suggest that his security detail assaulted a member of your staff.
So if it's not the security detail, who then assaulted him?
Well, that's a matter that is open for investigation. But for me, the bottom line here is that the campaign was swift in establishing the fact that there had been an assault. It was regrettable. apologized for it, extended support in terms of medical assistance to the affected journalists. And for me, I believe that that was a responsible thing to do vis-a-vis what we have seen in the past, where people or journalists or ordinary citizens are attacked at political functions or state functions, and there is a level of denial and a lack of taking responsibility. I believe that it's a welcome step that if these situations, as regrettable as they are, the ideal situation is not to have them happen. But when they do happen, we must be responsible enough to own up to them and say that, look, we're going to take steps to ensure that this does not happen. Own it, apologize for it, and move on. So I think that it is unfair to try to make the Parker case. In fact, the Parker case is a test or a test case of how to handle political parties should handle such instances, unfortunate instances, as and when they do happen.
I see. That's interesting. But how would you suggest that we bring closure to Parker's case? Because as of now, nobody has been arrested.
Well, I mean, we as a and when I say we, it's because I endorse President Mahama's campaign, and President Mahama's campaign has made it clear that they are willing to work with Parker. If Parker can identify any of the members of the security detail that are assigned to President Mahama, or he can identify, I mean, I don't know if a police case has been lodged. If a police case has been lodged, we need to find out the assault, by my understanding, happened within
I do understand
the administration
that the police
building.
case has been
Has
lodged.
been fantastic.
Yes.
So it happened within a building. It didn't happen on the outside. It happened on the 7th floor of a building at Pentecost University. Do we have CCTV cameras there? Can we get access to the tapes? Because as far as I'm concerned, the campaign of President Mahama is willing to cooperate with multimedia and Parker Wilson to resolve that issue. We've extended support we've extended our willingness to support with regards to his medical bills.
Right.
A statement was issued by the campaign. The president himself has engaged him and extended his apologies. I have personally spoken to Parker because Parker is a personal friend,
right,
and also expressed apologies on behalf of the campaign to him. And Parker himself will tell you that several members of the president's entourage have called him to check up on him and see how he's doing. However, if we can establish the identity of whoever it is, we will not shield the person. And President Mahama showed that instantly. 30 minutes, he said, look, point out the person to me and let's take out disciplinary measure. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have that done at the time. But if today there's a possibility, if there's a CCTV footage that we can use, or if Parker can identify whoever it is, I'm sure that the campaign will not shield that person.
Let's talk about politicians and journalists, because there's been some research which shows that politicians are the worst offenders in many of the cases affecting journalists. So in many of the cases, in fact, they point to two main parties, which is the NDC and the MPP. So what do you think can be done to ensure that, you know, journalists are safe in the hands of politicians or the people aligned to these two political parties?
Well, I think, again, it is unfair to generalize and say politicians are behind attacks on journalists, because except there's a case in reference that you can draw my mind to, I'm yet to see a case where
there is some research that has been done. We are unable to readily bring you those details.
If you get, let me land. What I'm about to say is that I'm yet to see, my mind, none readily comes to mind where a politician, properly so called, be it a member of parliament or a minister of state, physically assaulted a journalist. What you have are sympathizers of political parties. So when you say politicians are behind the attacks, that's where I have a problem with.
But if your supporter is attacking a journalist, you should be taking responsibility for that.
Well, there's some level of responsibility. I mean, there's some vicarious liability that you can extend to the politician. However, whoever is carrying out that act must not be shielded by political parties. And so when we fail to identify and name and shame these individuals for who they are, these are grown men over 18 years old, okay, who are carrying out these assaults. But we want to lump them and hide them behind the shield of political parties. Then you have these instances where they get away with it because then it becomes a political thing. But when we are able to segregate them, pull them out behind take off the veil of the political party, because many of these people do not do this on the instructions of any political person. I mean, the case of Parker, President Mahama did not ask anybody, be it a security person or a foot soldier or a party sympathizer, to attack anybody. And so when as and when you are able to identify the individuals behind this, and we name and shame them, and we allow the laws, we have laws on assault and battery. When we allow those laws to work, it would serve as deterrent enough.
Very quickly, you may have seen the montage we played earlier, but over the last 10 months, 11 journalists have been attacked. You're a communications specialist. How do you think we should be dealing with the situation going forward?
I think that it's a regrettable situation because Ghana is one country that has a lot of freedoms when it comes to our media landscape. But I think that, again, that I would prefer two solutions. One has to do with the management of political events. Many times political events are handled on an ad hoc basis. There's a plan. But when we hit the road, things get messy. It gets very, you know, it becomes very fluid. And if you listen to the Parker case, it was in that movement that this happened. Okay, but if you look at other jurisdictions, I mean, if POTUS is moving, the President of the United States is moving, there's a certain corridor around him where nobody, irrespective of whether you're a journalist or not, you don't get into that corridor. If we're able to establish such parameters here around our operations, around our security operations, and then the second suggestion is media people are able to understand that there are security implications around certain prominent persons you're covering. And so certain proximity may not be achieved on a campaign trail, because at that point in time, the security man's focus is on protecting his principal. You, as a journalist, is interested in getting your story. However, you must be mindful of the fact that the security man doesn't know you as a journalist. Even if you were wearing a tag, in the heat of the moment, he may not have the presence of mind to be looking out for your tag. He sees a potential threat to his principal. So if journalists are able to keep a safe distance within which they can do their work, as you see in other jurisdictions, and security personnel here are also given the requisite training to be able to understand that, yes, even in light of potential threat, you must not be high-handed in the way you protect that.
In the case of POTUS, the U.S. president, even though there's a certain parameter, you can't go beyond that. Usually after the interactions and the how do you call it,
the press briefings, basically, or when he's engaged in
they brief the press afterwards, so they have, you know, the opportunity to ask questions. That doesn't happen here.
So that's what I'm saying, that we need to look at the framing of our political programs. So if the journalists who are embedded by the media houses in the campaign of President Mahama, for example, know that at the end of every day there will be a briefing, then you do not need, because in this instance, Parker was told, my information is that the president was going to have a private meeting with the authorities of Pentecost University to thank them for allowing him use the facility. So it was supposed to be a private meeting, no media allowed. Okay, if Parker knew that there was going to be a briefing at the end of the whole tour, he may not have insisted or tried to insist to get in there, and would have avoided all of this. So if we can manage the processes of handling political programs, and media people know that even if there's no press briefing, the press by the principal himself, but a press attaché or a spokesperson is going to brief them at the end of the day and put out speaking points or speaking notes are handed out to the journalists. It would help us in managing all of this, because I think going forward we need to avoid instances where journalists in pursuit of their story end up having to get assaulted by security men who are also doing a legitimate job of protecting their principal.
All right, many thanks for your time. And that is a Member of Parliament for Ningu Prampram, Sam George there. Away from this, about 40 possible causes or cases of breast cancer were diagnosed at a breast screening exercise organized by the Outpatients Department of the Tamale Teaching Hospital in one day. The breast screening was to celebrate the Breast Cancer Day. Out of 167 women screened, 40 were identified with symptoms of breast cancer and asked to undergo further examinations. The hospital recorded 92 cases of breast cancer in 2016. The figure jumped to 248, and even before 2018 ends, the hospital has recorded 253. Correspondent Martina Bugri reports.
Thank you so much. Manager of the TTH Patia Dams, with support from the management, was to use the day to create the awareness of the alarming rate at which women were dying from breast cancer. Interacting with JoyNews, Madam Party said they were very happy with the results and intend to make it an annual affair. She said about 40 people had already been diagnosed and will be referred to the breast clinic for further investigations.
Our target was to get 300 clients at the end of the day. We were going to do 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. As as at 11:30, we had already screened 167 patients, which means we still have about 3 hours more. That's like half of the time frame we give ourselves. So it looks like our 300 is even going to exceed the number that we targeted. So we sure are, and we are identifying some cases as well, which we are taking note of, and then we'll do a follow-up. I think so far about 30 to 40 cases so far. I should say it's alarming. We would have been more happier if we had done the screening of all the ladies and we had about 1% or less. But having done about 160 so far and then identifying a few issues of about 30 to 40, I think it's alarming. It is. We've initially asked them to go and do some scans and do some other tests. So they'll come back with the results and then we'll follow up from there and know exactly what to do next. We're sure this is our maiden one and we are definitely going to sustain. We've seen the overwhelming crowd that we've had and how happy they are for us to be organizing this for them. And so we sure are. It's going to be a yearly program now.
The nurse in charge of the oncology unit of the TTH, Maina Goodman, expressed worry that women do not turn up to the breast clinic for screening. She said the only time they come is when they find an abnormality on their breast.
It's not very common to get a woman coming in to the breast clinic just for screening. They normally come because they have pain or they have discovered a lump. Or sometimes somebody will come with a sore on the breast, irritating sore, very offensive, then they will come to the clinic. It means that we have to do a lot of education to educate our people about early detection and early treatment because our women come very late.
The head of department of the outpatient department of the TTH, Dr. Henriado, said they were impressed about the turnout.
Fortunately for us, we have a breast clinic in Tamale Teaching Hospital that is running a full-time clinic. So they've been managing all cases of breast-related diseases. So what we're going to do is we're going to refer them to the clinic to see the specialist there, where there is the need to do a mammogram for them or ultrasound or incisional biopsy to then for histology to ascertain the type of cancer that it is. We will have to refer to the clinic for the specialist to manage.
On that note, we end Joy News Prime, and thank you for watching. From me and the rest of the team, have a good night.
This is Joy News Prime.